Welcome to Bet On It Monday Night Football Edition. Wait. Nope, Monday Night Football is done. That's right. This is the National Championship Edition. Let's bring in Marco and VR and chat about how we did this weekend. NFL show went 5-3. Obviously didn't have any college plays. That puts us on 24-11 for myself, 60-49 for VR, 62-51-1. For a grand total of 146, 111, and 1 on the season. Congratulations to that, gentlemen. Marco, how was your weekend?
Kelly, how was my weekend? Well, you want to talk about a emotional roller coaster of a weekend. I started off going Saturday night, season ticket holder, Vegas Golden Knights. I'm there, the return of Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, the Fortress was absolutely electrifying, and I'm there with a ticket in my pocket with the Golden Knights. I'm a big Marc-Andre Fleury fan, and he is like standing on his head, stop and goal, shot after shot. So that was a fun ride Saturday night. Then Sunday, I got the Baltimore Ravens. It's the only play I lose yesterday. And I'm rooting against my Steelers because they got no shot for the playoffs, right? As Coach Moore would say, playoffs? You're talking playoffs? We need the Jacksonville Jaguars to win in addition to the Steelers to win. Oh, my God, what happened early? All of that. And then all we have to do is avoid a tie in the Sunday night football game. And there we are in overtime with the clock running down and a tie score. Are you kidding me? And we get the field goal with 2 seconds left. What a day it was. I've been doing this for 42 years, Kelly. I have never witnessed a final Sunday of the NFL with as much drama as we saw yesterday. I don't know, but it was a fun weekend. Glad I just didn't have a heart attack.
I'm glad you didn't have a heart attack either, Marco. I literally tweeted yesterday. It was 1:50, the longest of my life. I was at a wedding all day. We've been drinking all day. I just wanted to go to bed. Ariel and I had concocted a little 3-team moneyline parlay. We needed the Raiders. Moneyline is a third leg. I actually just, please tie. Just tie. I don't even care. Everybody else will be happy. That's all everybody else wants is a freaking tie. I'll make it downgraded to a 2-teamer just so I could go to bed. But great times. VR, how was your weekend?
Wonderful, Kelly. I crushed. I had a good weekend overall. I mean, if it could go like that every weekend, I'd take it. I know I did well for the show. I hit 2 of the 3 bets that we grade, and also Dallas and Vegas. And I actually used Vegas as a 5% big move last night. I ended up liking it that strongly by the time we got to the weekend. And then Saturday, I crushed. I went 3-0 in the NFL and hit 4 of 6 of my best bets. Like I said this year, I really brought down my volume. I know compared to some bettors, it may still look like volume, but it's because I cover 4 or 5 sports. So even if you have 2 bets per sport, there's going to be 7, 8 bets there. But I ended up doing really well and hit 4 out of the 6 best bets on Saturday. But unfortunately, when you had texted me, it was before I even had gotten more stuff in. Like, I just had a couple games in, and there was those early games. And I was like, of all the games that lost, those were the only ones I ended up losing. But that's the randomness of daily betting. And that's why even like on a day like Saturday, I didn't even have a daily package up for sale. I mean, I know I have to offer that because there's some bettors that don't want to commit, but I just try to steer away from that kind of bettor because I want the guys that understand what the goal is. And I want the guys that I'm going to try to help them make money as much as possible. And I just can't do that to dudes that are just jumping in and out, looking for the, fastest horse that week instead of looking for the fastest horse of the race. And, again, great weekend overall. I'm looking forward to tonight's game. And I got a ton of gold to share throughout. Real quickly, let me give these first before we get to the game. Because I don't know, I think one of the tennis or, the soccer may be starting. But here real quickly, here's what I got for you that I already bet and confirmed. In soccer, Portugal Premier League. This is a 4% best bet. The only soccer bet I released today, it's 206,662. Gil Vicente at a pick'em. We laid minus 125. Also sprinkled a little on the three-way at plus 150. And then in the NHL, 4% play under 5.5 in the Rangers LA Kings game, and also a regular bet on the Kings at minus 110. So same game, Kings and under, just a much bigger bet on the under than the Kings. And I'll give you this tennis real quickly too, because I think they're tonight. Benjamin Bonzi minus 125 over Musetti. Albert Ramos Vinolas minus 135 over Delbonis, and Teresa Martinkova plus 100 versus Yastremska. Those are 3 tennis plays that I gave out as 3% plays. So not best bets, but the tennis, the soccer, I piggyback blindly because these guys move the lines and beat the books every single year. And it would be I'd be doing a disservice to my subscribers if I didn't share that information, whether they followed it or fade it. And finally, in the NBA, I also gave out, we unloaded on a game. The New York Knicks, that was it. The New York Knicks at minus 6, I gave out as a 4% best bet. And then after we do the Alabama game, I'll read off a bunch of college. I haven't given a single college basketball bet yet today, but I'm number 1 in profit for 2021 and 2022. This college basketball season, number 1 in profit at the sites I'm at. And they'll come, if I release any college basketball to my subscribers, it'll come from this group of games, meaning this information is what got me to number 1 for the season in profit. But I don't use every single one of these plays I'll share with you. You guys, you do what you want with it. You could hit me up later and ask if I used any of them. But I just haven't dug into college yet, basketball, because, again, there was just so much more to get to already, and it's only noon.
There is a lot already to get to.
There's a lot there, Kelly. Hopefully it helps the viewers a little bit. That's my goal.
Absolutely. I'm over here scrambling, trying to find the Portugal Premier League, but we got it, and it has not kicked yet. So make sure you guys get on that. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one. One thing I will pronounce, though, is the national championship. I've got the WagerTalk odds screen open. If we look across the slate, looks like pretty much threes across the board. Now, depending on where you like to shop, there actually is a 2.5 at WinBet minus 120 on the dogs. But otherwise, you should get 3 even or 2 minus 120. And I'll let VR speak to that here in a second on the difference between the two. We've seen some money coming on the over, 51.5, 52.5 now on the screen. No 53s. There was a 53 earlier that had popped up. Thought about hammering the under then. I figured I was going to wait. We're not going to see any money come in from the recreational bettors on the under in this one. I think on a 1-game sample size from the SEC championship game, this line's just a little too high. But I'm going to kick it to the guys, ask their opinion before we circle back to mine. Marco, your thoughts on the national championship game?
Well, Kelly, first off, if you liked Georgia and you didn't grab a 2.5, or you like Alabama and you didn't have a 3 in your pocket, you're not doing your job. We talk to you all the time. Ace stresses it. You got to make good bets. Not saying which one's the right side, but the right bet was Georgia at 2.5 or Alabama at 3. If you're not getting those numbers and you're betting Georgia, at 3, or you got an Alabama at 2.5, you're not doing things right. So you need to go back to school and get some lessons on, when to make your bets there. As far as this game goes, Kelly, I like the Georgia side. I'm going to look at this, and it's the big revenge game. They just played in the SEC championship game, and Alabama steamrolled them. But when you go back to that game, you can't tell me that Georgia didn't know in the back of their mind that they were playing with house money. They knew that even if they lost, they were not going to fall from number 1 to number 5 and be on the outside looking in. So they didn't have that, added, this is it. We got to win this game. Where Alabama came into the SEC championship game, they only had one route to the playoffs. They had to win that game. Alabama was not getting in with 2 losses on the season if they would have lost to Georgia. There was just too many teams that had, 1-loss seasons, or in Cincinnati undefeated, that they couldn't, keep Alabama in there. So Alabama came to play. Alabama got the job done. Now, we are going to be bucking history. Everybody knows the stat. It's 25-1 straight up. And that's Nick Saban against his former assistants. He did suffer that first loss, though, this season when Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M upset them earlier in the year. But I look at this one, and I think we're going to see a totally different performance. I like Georgia, which would also mean I'm leaning towards the under as well, because I believe it's a correlated parlay. Georgia, to win this game, is going to have to rely on the defense. They don't want to be in a shootout with Alabama. And to be honest about it, Alabama had everything working for them in that game. In the passing game, Bryce Young threw for over 400 yards in that game, which is going to make a lot of people look at the passing yards on prop bets with him. They're going to want to go over. I mean, it's 100. He went over tonight's prop by 100 yards. Two things you got to remember. One, what's Alabama going to change? Alabama is going to come in here with basically the same game plan because everything worked for them. However, Georgia's going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to look at that first game, change what didn't work, going to put new wrinkles in for Alabama because obviously what they didn't work. And I don't see Alabama getting the passing yards that they had. Don't forget, also, Young's going to be without his top wide receiver, Metchie. He is out. He had 97 yards, a bunch of catches, and a touchdown in that first meeting. So I like Georgia. I'm going to go ahead and lay the points with them. With that, 2.5, even on the money line is a spot here because I think you are going to get value on the money line. And I think Ace will touch on this in a little bit. People are going to bet Alabama on the money line. They want Nick Saban. They want the Crimson Tide, all the history there, and you can get them at plus money, which will give you a good price on Georgia if you don't want to lay the points. So there I have it. Going to look for some prop bets, and most of the prop bets, if I make any tonight, will be on the under with, of course, the quarterback for Alabama being the first one. And remember, that sealed the Heisman Trophy for him as well. I think, he was the favorite going into the final weekend, but that cinched it with that performance.
Absolutely, Marco. That is why I'm also on his passing yards under. Gave it out just a little bit earlier over my Barstool Sports Show. VR, I'd like you to touch on, before you get into what you like here in this game, on the difference of laying minus 145 if you like Georgia, laying 2.5 minus 120, or if you like 3 even. Can you explain the difference there for all of our viewers? And versus same thing with Alabama. Instead of taking the 2.5, would you rather play the money line?
All right. I love that question because we don't ask it enough. What do these lines actually mean? Especially when we're talking money lines in money line sports, which football isn't one. But you could carry it over to MMA, to hockey, to sports that do money lines. And a point spread is more or less just a money line converted into a point spread. Like you could convert a point spread into a money line. We know like a 7-point favorite's around a minus 300. They win 75% of the time. That's what is the conversion. Now, at minus 140, 145 money line, the break even's around 58, 59% of the time. So for you to bet Georgia on the money line, you need to conclude they win this game 6 out of 10 times, a little better than that to turn a profit. Now, if you're going to lay the minus 2.5 at minus 120, your break even is 54.5%. So now they got to win by more than 2.5, 55% of the time for you to do a little better than break even. And finally, if you do 3 at even money, it's 50-50. If you hit 51% of the time, you're going to turn a slight profit. So for me, when I looked at those 3 options, honestly, the ones that stick out the most is, number one, if I'm a little cheap and hesitant of laying the money line, then I'm going to lay the 3 even money way before I lay 2.5 minus 120, 125s. In fact, I'll try to get 3 plus 105s. I'll try to hunt that plus money down all the time, as opposed to laying that chalk on the 2.5. Because the sports books have figured it out already, what the half point's worth. and you're never getting the best of it. That's why I'm going to keep stressing this over and over again, because I continue to see it. I have access to back ends of sports books. And today, still, your casual bettor, Kelly, 8 out of 10 casual bettors buy points on numbers where they're getting the worst of it. And then when they're buying it on numbers that matter, like 3 or 7, they're paying so much more that they're taking even worse of it than if they laid like the 3.5. They're willing to lay minus 140 to take it to 3, which is ridiculous. So again, not to go on a rant, but you don't buy points because it's been figured out what a half a point costs. The quants already did that for us. So the sportsbook's not going to give you any kind of deal. That's why stay away from that. So for me, if I like the favorite, the option is Georgia money line or Georgia -3 at even money. And if I like the Alabama side, this one's pretty simple. I'm going to take the 2.5 at even money or plus money. I'm not going to lay juice for the 3. I'm going to take the money line before I do that, unless it's a cheap 3. But again, we'll see where the money goes. Now, as far as my pick for this game, it's very simple. There's sharp guys on both sides of this game, and that should be expected with this kind of game, especially around the key number 3. If this was the number was 8, 9, this wouldn't be the case. But around 3 or 7, you're going to get sharps on both sides who are trying to get the best of the 3 or the best of the 7. So let's move that away. Now, for me, as a sports bettor, as an advantage bettor, this one is as easy as it gets. Here's why. We already know this is not the Alabama that's been the most dominant. This is the best version of Alabama. We know they dropped just in offense from being number 1 in success rate last year to number 6 this year. The defense dropped from 2nd in success rate last year to 11th in success rate this year. So yes, Alabama's still the 2nd best team in the country, arguably, but they're not the Alabama of last season or of that small sample size even bigger sample size where they've been so dominant. We have to throw that into the mix. And here's why I bring that up. Because we knew that going into the conference championship. And that's why Georgia was a 6.5 point favorite in that game. 6 or 6.5, call it what you will. The fact that they lost that game to me is irrelevant. I can't stress that enough. The outcome of any single game is left to randomness a lot. So I don't put much stock. What I look for are outliers. Did something out of the ordinary happen in that game? Yes, of course, something out of the ordinary happened. Number 1, Georgia gave up 41 points. They hadn't given up more than 13 in the previous 10 games. So that's an outlier for that defense. That, to me, stuck out immediately. Then I said, all right, other than that, why did they lose that game? Dig into it. Another outlier. I have a quarterback who's only thrown 7 interceptions, I believe, the entire season, threw 3 in that single game. So half of his interceptions for 12 games happened in that one. Again, outlier. You got to throw that game away and look at this one. Like, if we take that game away, Georgia is not only a 6-point favorite against Alabama, but after what we saw in the playoffs, Georgia's a 7 or 7.5 point favorite over Alabama because Georgia was much more dominant in their playoff game than Alabama was, especially when you factor in the opponent. So if anything, I got to not put too much stock in the fact that they lost to Alabama earlier. But my takeaway is that the outlier, meaning the quarterback played his worst game of the season, the defense, which is number 1 in the country in success rate, played their worst game of the season, letting up 41 points. And now we have an adjustment of the point spread based on that game alone, when a week afterwards, we saw the Georgia, who is the number 1 team in the country, spank Michigan like they should have. I love what Marco said. I didn't even consider that, and I hate to go long, but I'm going to tell you, I made this a 5% best bet. Big move, call it what you will. I upgraded it from a 4% to a 5% because it just kept making more and more sense. I know I'm getting the best of it. Even if Alabama goes out there and loses, Kelly, I made a great bet. I'm so sure of that, I don't even have to watch the game. That's how sure of it I am. Regardless of outcome, I made an plus EV bet because I got Georgia minus 140 money line in my pocket, and it should probably be about minus 300 at minimum right now. Yeah, I said that against this Alabama team. Even if they lose, they should still be about a minus 270 to minus 300 money line favorite in this game after what we saw in the playoffs and based on the outlier of their game where Alabama ended up beating Georgia. So there's my pick. I don't care about the total. I don't care about the props because I am loaded on the side. Now, if information comes in on the total, because I do lean under, that confirms it, I'll bet that as well. If props come in, I know how well these guys do. I'll probably bet those as well because they tend to do well historically. But I just think Georgia tonight on the money line, minus 3 even money, whatever you could get is a hell of a bet. One of the best bets on the board. In fact, it's the best bet on the board tonight because I have a couple 4% plays, but that's my only 5%. Go Georgia, Bulldogs, best team in college football in 2021, 2022. No doubt about it. The numbers don't lie, and everything they did tells me the exact same. One game, that was it. One bad game, and that's why I'm getting value. Thank you for that.
I love to see it. I absolutely love when Team Wager Talk Bet on It is all in agreement. We kind of joked about this on Wednesday. We all knew we were going to be on the Georgia Bulldogs if we hadn't already bet them. So good luck to us. Good luck to you guys. Do not forget, it is $9 Monday over at WagerTalk.com, but you don't need to go buy either of these guys' $9 plays because they just gave you their best bets. Let's go, Dogs. Marco, can I get a bark from you for old time's sakes?
Oh, jeez.
Let's go.
Boy.
Good thing I got an earpiece in, otherwise you would have woke Coco up from her nap. She's also cheering for the Bulldogs. All right, well, thank you guys for always tuning in with us here on Mondays Live. We will be back Wednesday, regularly scheduled time, with more Bet on It. We're going to talk the first round of the playoffs. Until then, good luck tonight. Go Dogs. Let's bet on it.
Have you ever wanted to create your own handicapping dream team? You can now build your own superstar handicapping lineup using our Pick Your Team program at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. Even more exciting, until Sunday, January 16th at midnight, you can save 15% off your Pick Your Team using coupon code PYT15 when checking out. Dave Koken, Marco D'Angelo, and Ralph Michaels, John Ryan, Joseph D'Amico, and Rocket Man. The combinations are endless, and you can choose up to 5 handicappers. You start saving once you choose any 2 handicappers of your choice, and you can pay as little as under $6 per handicapper. Who will make your dream lineup? Just go to WagerTalk or SportsMemo, click Pick Your Team, and personally hand-select your handicapping roster. Don't forget, coupon code PYT15 will expire January 16th, so make sure to get your 15% discount.